guys? Team Hard Life, Captain Alberto Zertuche here. Alright, so y'all saw me unbox the tackle industry and the Vexen rods. Now, the deal about those is there's a lot of behind the scenes action that is going on, and I felt like I needed to share that with y'all because, yes, I am a YouTuber that is showing you the gear that we're using, but I haven't explained in depth as to why we use them and so forth. And I think that's really important into making any kind of decision on any kind of rod that you're gonna buy, especially when you demand so much out of the gear you purchase. We really do. You know, if I'm gonna buy something, I wanna make sure that it's gonna help me in the most positive way to ensure that I'm not gonna lose a fish, that I'm not gonna be wore out because I fought a fish, and then also too, because I brought it in very quickly, it has more of a chance of survivability. I tournament fish a lot of tournaments that are all strictly catch and release only. So for me to have a shark or a fish die on me because I fought it for too long is not conducive to me being able to go through all the fish I need to get through to catch that winning fish. Yes, sometimes I've caught one fish per tournament and it happened to be the winning fish, but at the same time, I don't know that. So I'm gonna keep fishing my heart out until they say, all right, time's up. That's, you know, enter your submissions. Kind of like taking a test. You can only answer them all up and stuff like that. Yes, you can finish early, but that doesn't mean, in a fishing world, that doesn't mean you're gonna get the best big fish, you know what I mean? So I keep fishing until they say time and they say, all right, you've won or you haven't won. You know, you don't know what everybody else is doing unless you are in communication with each other. And so for me, the only ones that I normally communicate with to find out what they're catching are my tournament guys that we're fishing with right then and there, because I am there, can verify. All these tournaments, you always hear a lot of hearsay, oh, they caught this, they caught this, they caught this. And half the time the guys aren't even in the tournament. Or it's just other guys just trying to pull your leg to you know, get you to either one, do better, or two, to give up. Because, oh man, they already caught this, I ain't even gonna worry about it. Well, that ain't me. I don't stop until that line gets drawn and says, all right, no more fishing. Let's enter our fish into the winning categories or submit our fish for winning categories. Either way, I've got right here to my right, it's gonna be a older Tackle Industries. It's probably, yeah, I say older just because we eat through so much gear. It's awesome to see that a rod or a reel has made it over the 5-year mark with us, just because we fish so much, we're so hard on it, we demand so much out of them that, you know, for it to make over the 5-year mark, that's actually a pretty good reel right there, or a pretty good rod, you know. We catch a lot of fish and we're very hard on the gear. So I've got a new one right next to it just so you can see what it looks like when they're brand new in comparison to what we've already put it through. Now this rod that I'm about to show you, it's been on the jetties, it's been on the pier, it's been on the inshore piers, and I mean, the pier I'm talking about is Wall Pier, where we supply Michael Mays with our fishing tackle. So if you ever go out there, check out Michael Mays, and you'll see the gear that we have in there. Now, we go offshore with this rod. I've taken it on boats, I've taken it on kayaks, I've actually stood on platforms using this rod at the same time, you know. And then I also go to inshore, you know, where we fish the bays, and I do the big black drum tournaments and stuff like that. And then I'm also fishing from the bank on the inshore areas as well. And those are the spots where you see us catching all those drum and reds and even occasional sheephead and stuff like that. So you've seen this rod in action for several years. And so I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison real quick and give you a little more insight as to why we buy these rods, why we pair them up with the avets, and so you can see. Here we go. All right, so we'll start at the base, and obviously it's always this bottom portion that gets eaten up on these rods with us because we're sticking them in the rocks and doing everything else. But as you can tell, obviously this is the new one, and this is the older one right there. And as we go up the rod and get to our reel and our reel seat, and as you can tell, we're using an SX Raptor on this one, and yeah, you can see how beat up it is. And even then too, you can see all the mud and everything else on this reel seat. But, you know, it's there. It ain't going anywhere. We've been fishing it for a lot of years, and it's going great with us. So, and the same exact reel seat that they have here. And then we go up to the foregrip, which is done very well there. keep going to the guides right here. And as you can see on this guide right here, it's actually been bent out. Let me go and remove this real quick so you see what it starts with. Alright, so now that I've removed it, you can see what the new guide looks like in comparison to the one that's been beat up. And it's going to be kind of hard because the reel is on there and it's adding weight to it, and I'm trying to hold the phone at the same time, or the camera. So you can tell, yeah, we beat them up pretty good. Keep going further up on the rods. There you go. Look, side by side, these things, you can tell the abuse we've put them through. And I mean, after years and years, I mean, it's barely starting to crack through. They've hit the inside of the truck, being squashed near other rods and so forth. Now, the main reason we fish with these rods here is because the amount of backbone they give us when, yeah, that one's pretty bad. So is that one. And like I said, I mean, that's 4 years of abuse right there put into these rods. And, you know, they just keep on ticking. They take that licking. Alright, so as we use reflective tape on the tips of the rod, so that way when we're fishing late at night, we can still see our tips. And this, obviously the tips are always the first thing to go on any rod, and ours always get beat up because we're going through the woods and we're doing all kinds of stuff like that, getting slammed on the floor or whatever. So actually this one just got re-glued because that's what actually happened. It started to spin on me even after we had glued it, but only because we're going through the brush and all kinds of craziness to go alligator gar fishing. They definitely put their gear through some hell, so, and that's what it would normally look like right there. It's got the 2 legs that come down and has the extra portion that's got to be wrapped on the tip right there. Alright, so when you go cranking on a reel, you want the rod to bend, but only to a certain point. But when you buy a rod for a reel, you want it to be able to absorb the amount of power that the reel is going to put into the rod. You don't want this rod to be super flimsy to where when you're cranking, you're just barely taking the bow out of the rod because the backbone is real weak. With these rods, the backbone kicks in almost immediately, but it still has enough action so I can see some fight in the rod. And that also tells me 2 things. 1, how big the fish is, and 2, that I'm actually pulling in fish when I'm cranking on it and not the rod just keep doing this number every time I crank the handle. So, what I need to do, in this bucket here, I've got one of my big old barracuda nets, plus another bucket. And what I'm going to do is just show you the amount of backbone this rod has. Let's see all this. Okay. And see how I crank on it? That tip already starts to go down. That's another part of this rod system. Any little thump you feel on that line, you'll feel it all the way through the rod. Like, as soon as they're nibbling on that line, if you're using braid, you'll feel it like instantly over here. Just me, you know, barely tipping the rod like that, you'll feel the vibration up the rod. So it lets you know that something is messing with it. But 2, I mean, you know, look at that. This is a rod that I'm putting a lot of weight on it. And it's not going anywhere, so whew, if I was up a little higher, I'm pretty sure I could pier whip this bucket, but I've got hardly nowhere to go. But the other thing is too, I'm not going to pull it toward me because I'm going to high stick it and then I'll break the rod. As you notice, when you go to lifting, you want to keep it level. Let me tighten my drag here. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure on a rod, especially from my stance. I'm having to lift it up over here just to be able to get the boat. Now, if I'm on a pier or on a boat, you've seen where I've actually sat on the rod and give it a, you know, lock it all the way over. So this is one of the main reasons we go with the tackle industry rod. And as you can tell, I'm using the old rod to do that bend test, not a new rod. And the reason for that is because it's been through so much and it's still able to do that. So that's a huge selling point for when I buy a new rod. I want to know what it's capable of doing. And then going at over 5 years in the collection, been beat up and dropped against the floor, been pulled through the mush and marsh, or mud, marsh, and bushes. I mean, if you don't alligator garfish, guys, but that's some crazy fishing. Those guys, they find their own spots. Literally, they're looking on the maps, and then they trudge through the woods, chopping down and creating their own path. And so I give a lot of those guys props. And yes, I'm gonna get into other types of fishing very soon. It's just a little bit at a time because there's so much to learn, so much to see, and so much to do. I just felt it would be a good way to show y'all guys what these rods can do and what they've been through. I mean, you can go back through a ton of our videos and see these rods in action. For me, casting on the pier, casting on the beach, on the bays, and even in the woods. These rods are phenomenal rods. And so stay tuned to the next video as we go on to the Vexen Inshore Series rods, which we are definitely loving. But there you go, guys. That's the Tackle Industries. That was a short little demonstration. And yeah. And actually, real quick, let me show you what the bucket looks like. And weight. Alright, so I got it zeroed out. Alright, so I've got a little over 18, almost 18 and a half pounds with the bucket, the cast net, and the other bucket in there. And you saw me bending that rod over, and that is... that's no worries. Do that all day and it will be able to take it. So there you go.